Hello YouTube, this is DVD Review Studios here, and today we shall be doing the first Blu-ray and DVD update for January 2023, of which this will be different and more unconventional to the usual Blu-ray and DVD updates I upload, where I have combed through the collection of Blu-rays and DVDs and grabbed a whole load of titles of stuff that I've either not shown on the channel before or just stuff that I've not watched as of yet. And so I've brought them all here so then we can talk about these titles, and then you, the viewer, can recommend in the comments as to what I should be prioritizing watching from these titles. And so without any further delay, let's start off with the Blu-rays. Starting off with the Blu-rays, we have Seasons 1 and 2 of The Boys, a show that I've been recommended to watch many times. I did actually feature these on the channel. I grabbed both of these season box sets in an Amazon Day deal, and I got them pretty cheap, which I was very happy with. And I believe Season 3 is on the way as far as the Blu-ray releases go, but I've only seen the first episode of this show, and I liked what I saw. It was very intriguing to say the least. It was very well acted in particular, and from what I've heard as to how the rest of the show progresses, it certainly isn't for the faint-hearted, and I think this kind of take on the superhero genre is very refreshing and something that I'm really looking forward to delving into a lot deeper. So that is Season 1 of The Boys, and then Season 2 there as well. Next up we have Last Night in Soho, which I picked up in the same haul video as both box sets there of The Boys. And this is a film that I've wanted to watch for quite a while. I'm a huge fan of Edgar Wright. He's one of my favourite British film directors, directing the likes of, as it says there on the cover, Baby Driver, the Cornetto trilogy. He's done some fantastic films, and I love his visual storytelling cues, mainly the sort of quick-cut editing he adds to his movies. I think that's a really great sort of visual technique. And from what I've heard about this film, I've heard overall mostly good things about it. Apparently the ending is a little bit lackluster, but I'll obviously judge that for myself when I do get around to watching it. And there's some great bonus features included on this as well, which I'm always interested in commentaries by Edgar Wright in particular, just sort of getting to explore his mind as to how he's approached certain things about the making of his films. So I'm sure this will be an intriguing watch, and from what I saw of the trailer quite a while ago, it looked to be overall a very well acted sort of mystery kind of thriller, so definitely something I'll be hoping to watch sooner rather than later. So that is Last Night in Soho. Next up we have a movie that I've had in the collection for a good number of years now and still sadly not gotten around to watching it, and that is the David Fincher film Gone Girl, which I've really wanted to collect basically all of David Fincher's movies. I love his stuff. Fight Club is one that I've been very vocal about on the channel that I've very much enjoyed. Panic Room with Jodie Foster is one that I find to be very underrated and I really enjoyed. And I love Seven as well. That's a phenomenal story. And this film, from what I've read about it, seems to be that Ben Affleck's character is being blamed for the murder of his wife, being Rosamund Pike's character, and that he's been wrongly accused, which is a sort of storyline that I've seen done before, but I'd be very intrigued to see how that plays out in a movie by Fincher. And so that's one that, again, I want to try and watch as soon as I can. Just other things do take priority here and there. But yeah, by all means, a David Fincher film that I'm hoping to watch sooner than later. So that is Gone Girl. Next up, we have a couple of animated shows, starting off with Cowboy Bebop, which we have the Cowboy Bebop movie and then the complete series split over 2 volumes, which I've seen all of Volume 1. Absolutely love these box sets, just stunning in terms of the overall graphics and the amount of detail that's gone into these Blu-ray sets. Just absolutely incredible to make them kind of look like VHS sets, but obviously they are not. And we have some great little booklets included showing some of the art and designs from the series as well. So great stuff in terms of the contents for these box sets. In terms of the episodes, really enjoyed the series overall. I've sadly not finished it as of yet. I'm maybe about halfway through the 2nd volume, so obviously once I've gone through this, I will be able to then move on to the movie, which from what I've heard, apparently this wraps up the entire sort of story of Cowboy Bebop, which has been just a phenomenal sort of Western sci-fi influenced animated story, and one that I really do want to revisit at some point and maybe binge through in a little bit more closer succession, since I've watched maybe a handful of episodes, then left it a few months, then watched another handful, and so on and so forth. So overall, really enjoy the characters in particular from this series. Spike Spiegel in particular is one of my favorites. So that is the Cowboy Bebop series and movie. And last up for the Blu-rays, we have the complete series of Adventure Time, which is a very creative animated series from Cartoon Network, spanning across 10 seasons in total, and I've only seen all of season 1. and I was very impressed. The animation quality in particular is something that was very vibrant, and the designs of each character are just very unique and something that certainly has hooked me to want to continue watching the show. I've seen a handful of episodes beyond season 1. The main episodes that I recall, I have no idea what season they are from, but it mainly revolved around Finn meeting his father and he loses his arm. Kind of vague on the sort of more vivid details with that storyline overall, but it was something that did kind of stick out and was something that I wanted to check out at a future date. So whenever I get to that sort of section of the series, then obviously that'll make more sense to me. But this is a really compact and phenomenal Blu-ray set. I believe it was released only in Australia by Madman Entertainment, a label that I'm a very big fan of. And we have seasons 1 through to 5 contained in this Blu-ray case, and then the remainder 6 through to 10 contained in this case. The only downside to this box set is sadly there's not as many bonus features included, but that's a bit of a loss, I guess, to get a more compact edition, and just having the episodes is perfectly fine anyway. So definitely a series I want to jump back into at some point. Obviously I've kind of prioritized other shows in favor of this, but otherwise it's a show that I'm looking forward to going through and finishing at some point in the near future. So with that said, let's move on now to the DVDs. Moving into the DVDs now, we have a film both written and directed by Oliver Stone, and that is Platoon, which I can't really recall where I purchased this from or really how long I've had it for. I mainly got this because it stars Willem Dafoe and the theme of the Vietnam War and him portraying a character throughout that conflict. I thought that would be kind of interesting, so I'm hoping that that will definitely meet my expectations. Otherwise, I know very little about this film, so by all means let me know in the comments if it's something I should jump onto sooner rather than later. There Will Be Blood, a film starring Daniel Day-Lewis, which I believe this one was recommended to me by the Cryptic Cinema, aka Dean. I know he's a big fan of Daniel Day-Lewis as an actor, and this film is very highly rated. I know very little about it, unfortunately, but it's something that I did want to add to the collection, so I'll be sure to tune in for this one at some point very soon. The one thing that I was very irritated by is this very convoluted kind of packaging. This DVD has been supplied, and it's a 2-disc collector's set as it states, but yeah, the way the DVDs have been kind of packaged in here, this sort of fold-out seems to literally be stuck inside there. I don't know whether or not this is supposed to remove all the way or not, but the feature disc is kind of jammed between these two little card pieces. Maybe this will make sense after I've seen the movie. I genuinely have no idea. It just really doesn't look all that great, to be honest, so I might get rid of this edition, see if there's a better variation of this, just literally for the sake of the packaging. No doubt the discs will get incredibly scratched up in something like this anyway. But that is There Will Be Blood. The Mothman Prophecies is a film that I've had in my collection for a couple of months now, and I believe this is based on the book by John Keel written during the mid-1970s, surrounding the cryptozoological legend of the Mothman, which is something that really did capture people's imaginations during the 1960s, and it was something that kind of became a legend in West Virginia, specifically around Point Pleasant, where I believe there is now a Mothman museum. And the Mothman is a very interesting cryptid where if you look into the sort of sightings and explanations surrounding the sort of figment of the Mothman, literally a man-sized winged creature regarded as a terrifying moth character, there's a lot of really interesting stuff that would really make for quite the horror film, and so I believe that is what this essentially is, taking elements of the book by Keel and adapting it into a sort of horror film narrative, and that's something that has really kept my interest in terms of wanting to watch this. I just sadly have not had the time. I was either debating to watch this around October for sort of Halloween horror, that sort of stuff, or alternatively, I was going to check out the book first and then watch the movie. I don't know yet. If you feel this is worth a watch, by all means, let me know in the comments. Next up we have Girl Interrupted, a film that I genuinely have no recollection as to why I picked this up. I think I may have just seen a clip of it online and just thought that looks worth watching and grabbed it dirt cheap somewhere. I have no idea. In terms of the synopsis, it seems to be of interest, based on true events where the main character is trapped in a psychiatric hospital, and this film supposedly kind of recalls the events that happened during that time period. I have no idea. By all means, again, let me know. Is it worth a watch? Zodiac, another David Fincher film which I sadly have not gotten around to watching as of yet. I have seen a few clips of this online. Cast-wise, that was something that intrigued me to pick this one up. And in terms of the storyline, I believe this one is also based on true events, hunting down a serial killer, so I'm intrigued by that kind of premise. Definitely something that I'm hoping will capture my interest, so that is Zodiac. Next up we have Princess Mononoke, which is part of the Studio Ghibli collection. This is a film that I've had recommended to me so many times, and every now and again when I log on online I do see a clip of this recommended to me. I've seen a handful of clips of this film anyway, and as always with Studio Ghibli films, the animation quality and character designs are just absolutely gorgeous, always full of great colour and vibrance. And I really do want to watch this, along with more Studio Ghibli films. It's a Numbered Spine series, and although I'm not really one to collect sort of Numbered Spine films, I really would love to have all of these in the collection. What I've seen from Studio Ghibli so far, I've only seen a handful of these movies, but they are absolutely stunning, and so many great stories that really do push the boundaries of animation, so that's something that I'm hoping this film will achieve as well. Next up, we have a foreign film from Hong Kong. This is Chongqing Express, which is a film I believe that has Cantonese dialogue with English subtitles, of course, and is an interesting genre combination of romance and a crime thriller as well. And from what I've read about the film, it's very highly recommended, has a phenomenal soundtrack from what I've heard, so I'm very intrigued by that in particular. And so this is a film that I will definitely be feedbacking my thoughts on in a future video. And in terms of the film in itself, this was quite an expensive one to my surprise. I picked this up fairly cheap compared to what the usual rates are. I've seen this go between about £15 to £20. I think I paid about £8 for this, if I'm not mistaken. I got it not too long ago. I've just not had a chance really to check this one out. But again, let me know if it's worth a watch. I'll likely try and push to get this one watched sooner than later anyway. But even so, if you've seen it, let me know if it's worth watching, if you would recommend it. Next up, we have a handful of movies starring one of my all-time favourite actors, and that is Edward Norton, which I did a video a little while back looking at every single movie I've got in the collection starring Edward Norton, and I've wanted to fill in the gaps in the collection of his filmography of just stuff that I don't own or have not seen. And The Score was one of those movies which I've heard mixed things about. Supposedly it's just an okay movie. I don't really know too much about the plot in all honesty, but obviously it stars Edward Norton, which is the main reason I picked it up. Likewise with Down in the Valley, which I believe has some kind of Western influences, along with it being a romance movie as well. And then one that I'm very intrigued by, this could either go horribly wrong or be surprisingly quite good, that is Leaves of Grass, where Ed Norton plays both the main characters in this film. Quite an interesting premise. I don't really like films that kind of do that, with the main actor taking on two lead roles. It can be very messy and very disjointed at times, but if it's done well, then by all means props to the movie. So let me know in the comments if this is worth a watch. So that is Leaves of Grass. Next up, we have a comedy film from around the mid-90s, and that is Swingers, directed by Doug Liman, which I picked this one up since I really enjoyed the film Go, which was also directed by Liman. And that film was honestly one of my favourite movies I checked out in 2022. That was an absolutely incredible comedy film. And this is one which I believe has kind of a similar vibe to it. I'm intrigued to see what the storyline is like for this one, so this will be one that I'm hoping to watch sooner rather than later. So that is Swingers. Starring Bryan Cranston, next up we have The Infiltrator, which is a complete blind buy. I have absolutely no idea what this film is about, other than the vagueness of this being about the drug cartel. Other than that, know very little about it, but I mean, Bryan Cranston is always a win in my opinion. He's a phenomenal actor. I absolutely love him in Malcolm in the Middle as Hal, obviously in Breaking Bad as Walter White, and I very much enjoyed his minor role in the film Argo. He played a great character in that film, definitely one of the more memorable ones. So The Infiltrator is one that I'm hoping will be very enjoyable. Seems to have generally very good ratings. Next up we have Cocktail starring Tom Cruise, which I believe I picked this one up not too long after seeing the first Top Gun movie. As many know, I'm not really a massive fan of Tom Cruise as a person, but he has done some very good films, and I'm hoping this will be one of those. So that is Cocktail. Starring Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, we have Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a film with a phenomenal looking front cover. I love this trippy design, just absolutely gorgeous stuff. But in terms of the film itself, the reason I picked this one up and the way I discovered it was bizarrely through a random throwaway gag in a Simpsons episode, which obviously went over my head, and I googled around wanting to know, well, what was that a reference to? And it was apparently this film. So that's why I picked this one up, and I'm hoping it will live up to expectations. So that is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I went for a phase not too long ago binging my way through a load of movies starring Robin Williams, and Insomnia is one of those films, which I've sadly not gotten round to, but from what I've heard about the film, it's overall generally well received. It's a film directed by Christopher Nolan, who is one of my favourite film directors. And overall, this looks to be very intriguing, to say the least, and Robin Williams, outside of comedy, has really done some very memorable and phenomenal roles encapsulating so many different diverse characters, and I'm hoping that this will be delivering in that respect as well. So that is Insomnia. Based on the novel of the same name, we have Atonement, which is a film that I've had in my collection for a good couple of months and genuinely cannot recall why I picked this one up. I grabbed it dirt cheap. I must have just seen, again, similar to some of the other titles in this video, I must have just watched a clip from the movie and thought this seems like it's worth a watch, so I'll grab it for the collection at the very least. And James McAvoy is a fantastic actor. Not really a massive fan of Keira Knightley, to be perfectly honest. It was ever since I saw her in Pirates of the Caribbean, just running around screaming like someone who wasn't well. I just always had this weird distaste for her as an actress. Just, I don't know, maybe this movie might change my mind and perception on that, but otherwise, not really a massive fan. But we will see. So that is Atonement. Another complete blind buy. This time we have Prisoners, which has an absolutely phenomenal lineup of cast members. The main reason why I picked this one up, I grabbed it not too long after watching The Batman, where Paul Dano starred as the main villain in that film, obviously playing the Riddler. And wanting to watch more stuff with Dano, this was apparently one of the better films overall with him in, and so that was one of the main reasons why I grabbed it anyway. So sadly, know very little about this film at all, but it's one that I'm hoping to get around to at some point very soon. Yesterday, directed by Danny Boyle, is such a surreal concept for a movie where I was genuinely questioning, surely that can't be a real film, but apparently it is. Based around, obviously, the band The Beatles, we have the main character, Jack, who is supposedly the only person in the world after a blackout that can recall the songs of the Beatles, and him being a struggling songwriter, he rips off their work in order to become world famous. As the vague kind of outline that's been explained to me about this film, I'm really excited to see this one. I actually grabbed this only a couple of weeks ago, and it's one that's just been sat in the watch pile, waiting obviously to be seen, so I can't wait to check this one out. This is one that I will definitely be prioritizing regardless. So that is Yesterday. This next handful of movies I actually grabbed together as part of a small bundle over eBay, which I believe the films in that collection I was after were some of the Child's Play movies, and it just turned out that these were included with those as well. So we have Colombiana starring Zoe Saldana, which I don't really know anything about this movie. As a lead actress, Saldana is honestly a great presence on screen. I've enjoyed a lot of her work in particular, so I'm hoping this will be good. Jawhead is a film that I've been recommended to watch countless times, and one that I wasn't really going to go out of my way to pick up, so perhaps as well it came in this bundle. Heard good things about it, starring Jake Gyllenhaal in particular, who is an actor that I do very much like, so hopefully this one will be worth watching. Next up, starring Bruce Campbell, we have Bubba Hotep, which my friend Dean has mentioned to me a handful of times. Very bizarre premise to this one, and with Bruce Campbell taking on the role of Elvis Presley. Definitely a weird one in my eyes, so I can't wait to see what this film has to offer. And then last from this small bundle, we have a box set of films from Robert Rodriguez. We have El Mariachi, Desperado, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. And to round off this video, we have the complete series box set of Freaks and Geeks, a series that has been recommended to me many a time. It's become quite the cult classic, a series that was very much short-lived and really seemed to only be appreciated long after it had aired. and this contains the entirety of the show, and overall looks to be quite an appealing piece of like a coming-of-age style series, something that does intrigue me genre-wise, and that was one of the main reasons why I decided to go ahead and pick this one up anyway. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. I'm hoping for the best from this show, so I'll hopefully maybe feature this in a future either update video, or if I enjoy it so much I may even feature it in its own video anyway. So that's going to do it for this update video looking at titles in the collection that I have not seen as of yet. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave me a like down below. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, let me know in the comments what you feel out of the titles I've shown throughout this video, what I should prioritize watching. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe.
Are you threatening me?